Chess is back from his 18-day adventure to Australia, part of his ambassadorial delegation, which was invited to represent the United States. This was the idea first conceived by President Eisenhower after World War II. It's called People to People, Student Ambassadors, and it's to help foster better relationship between nations by getting young people to be more aware of their commonalities. Chess, welcome back. So, why don't we start talking about your great adventure down to the Down Under? How'd you get there?
Well, we flew. First we took a flight from San Francisco to LA, and then from LA we flew on Qantas Airlines all the way to Australia, which is the main Australian airline. It was a 14-hour flight, and it was actually pretty nice because it had a full entertainment system where you could watch movies, new and old movies, TV, play games, listen to radio, new release CDs. You could do just about everything. It also had a kit that you got, everyone in the plane had like socks and toothbrush and eye patch for sleeping. It was just like everything you needed on a plane. So it was really fun to get all that neat stuff. So, yeah.
So, first was Sydney, and what was the weather like?
Oh, well, as soon as we got to Sydney, the first day there was actually a relatively nice day. It was sunny out. But then the rest of the time in Sydney, it was like raining pretty much all the time, and it was cold weather, so it wasn't that hot. It was like 50 degrees. And it's winter down there in Australia too, so it's not delightful.
So where'd you go first?
The first day, as soon as we got out of the airport, we went and we traveled to the Sydney Olympic Stadium, and we got a full tour of its unique design and got to go in the bleachers and look down at the field and all its different things and see how it's unique, and it's where the 2000 Olympics were held.
Is that called the Telstra Stadium?
It's called the Telstra Stadium, yeah.
What'd you do after that?
Then from the Telstra Stadium we went and we rode our bus over to the Sydney Aquatic Centre, which is where the Olympic swimming pool is, and we got to go swimming there for an hour in the family section, which is basically consists of like a hot tub, a big normal swimming pool, and then it has a current pool, and also it has a big slide that you got to go down. And then on the other half, it's got the Olympic pool and the Olympic dive pool, too.
What about that opera house? What was that like?
Yeah, we also got to go visit the Sydney Opera House and see how its unique design and learn about how it was built. And we got a full guided tour, and we got to go visit 2 of its theaters out of the 5 that are actually there. We got to go to the main theater, which can normally hold about 2,700 people. And then the smaller theaters can hold from 1,500 to less people.
You said they went on a harbor tour. You got to see it from the harbor too?
Yeah, we also got to go on a harbor cruise all over the bay in Sydney. And we got to go under the Sydney Bridge, and we got to see the Sydney Opera House up close from the water. And then visit and then see the Sydney skyline too, which was really a neat thing to see.
What is the Hyde Park Barracks?
The Hyde Park Barracks, it was a building where like criminals who were sent from either Britain or the United States colonies, or the U.S. colonies, were sent, and it was where they were kept, because it was basically a building where they were all kept and slept in like hammocks, and they all had like uniforms which they were given, and then back then it was infested with rats, so like rats would take up their people's belongings and they'd like put them in their nests and stuff underneath the floorboards. So that was where a lot of artifacts were found later on.
Interesting. Did you visit an aquarium in Sydney too?
We also got to go to the Sydney Aquarium, and it wasn't all that unique from the aquariums we have here, except for it had one a shark walk, where we got to go walk under a huge shark tank and look up at like sharks and all kinds of fish that they had in the tank, which was really unique.
Tell us about the opal shop.
We also got to go to an opal shop, which we learned about opals and how it's the Australian national stone and how it's made. And there's 3 different types of opals: the triplet, the doublet, and then there's the single opal. And how they're created and formed. And then we also just got to shop in the other half of the building and buy opals. And I was able to purchase an opal for my mom, which was really nice. It was a necklace. But we also got to hold on to another opal, which was actually a $40,000 opal, which was like really colorful and beautiful to look at. It's as much as a car costs down there. So.
And where do they get those opals from?
Opals are actually, they're farmed from underground mines, just all over Australia. So, yeah.
How was the food?
The food in Australia was pretty good. It was pretty similar to American food, except the only problem was there wasn't a lot of selection for us on our trip. It was basically sandwiches for lunch every day, and then like some kind of burger or something for dinner. And then breakfast, every morning breakfast consisted of like hash browns. It was everywhere that we went all over Australia was triangular hash browns. So.
All right. From Sydney, where did you go? Show me on the map.
From Sydney, we flew all the way from here to Sydney, and we flew, or actually no, we didn't fly yet. We went and we traveled to Canberra, or near Canberra, to a place called Mangrove Mountain, which is where we got to stay for a day, and it was kind of like a summer camp place and overnight with like dorms and stuff, and we got to go do like different activities which kind of made us step outside our comfort zone, like a giant rope swing, a huge wall where we got to rappel down, and then like a mini ropes course that required a lot of balance and stuff, and which was a lot of fun.
So that was Mangrove Mountain?
That was Mangrove Mountain.
Mm-hmm. And that's in Canberra.
It's sort of near. It's closer to Sydney, but it was on our way to Canberra, which is where we went right after that.
Is that the capital?
Yeah, in Canberra, which is where we went from Mangrove Mountain, which would be right there. It's the capital of Australia, which was actually decided because Australians didn't know what the capital of the country should be, whether it should be Melbourne or Sydney. So, and then the agreement came to build a whole new city in between both of them to create the capital. So.
And there you went to the Australian War Museum.
Yeah, we got to go to a war memorial, which is more a museum, talking about World War I and World War II and Australia's involvement in both wars and all kinds of that stuff. It was pretty nice to see and visit a lot of different stuff.
So back to Sydney, and you left New South Wales and flew up to the Northern Territory. Show me where that is.
From Sydney, we flew all the way up here, and we went to a city called Darwin, which is actually, it's like 150,000 people is the population of Darwin, so it's not like huge or anything. And up there it was a lot different. The weather was a lot nicer. It was like 70 to 80 degrees, like sunny every day. So it was really nice up there, kind of tropical.
So you went to some national parks. What about these termite mounds?
We went to some termite mounds, it was like a giant field filled with these huge mounds that were like 6 to 7 feet tall, and they actually looked like giant tombstones, and they were the termite mounds where termites lived. And
were there waterfalls and?
Yeah, we got to go swimming in one waterfall. It was kind of like a giant lake, and then there was a huge waterfall. And most of our delegation went swimming, except I didn't actually go swimming that day. So.
And so that's the area made famous by Crocodile Dundee, huh?
Yeah.
All right. And tell us about the Kakadu National Park.
We went to a place called Kakadu National Park, which is it was an area dedicated to the Aboriginal culture of Australia. And we got to go on a scenic flight. It was like a small planes that held about 7 people. And you got to fly all over Kakadu, and they had an audio commentary with us, so we got to wear headphones because the planes were really loud, and listen to that as we flew around, and it kind of described the land and the giant archways, rock archways that we saw, and the river, and small Aboriginal village we flew over.